Hey guys, this is Danny Boy. So we are on the final half of the final mission. This is Earth, return to Earth. Just finishing things up. So same build, same weapon, same party members. All the same. This is going to be long, as is the next video. Why? Why must it take so long? So, this is my Sentinel playthrough. It is coming to an end. It was quick. It was very quick compared to my Vanguard. My Vanguard, all told, to do everything, to get the gameplay, to do all the editing, and there was a ton of editing in that playthrough because of all the plot stuff. And the voiceover, and just to upload it and, render it and everything, that took like 3 weeks. This, when all said and done, I would say that the entire series took maybe 5 days, or so, if that. And somebody asked me, I guess I've been putting off this vibe of, I hate the Vanguard, or I really disliked the Vanguard playthrough. That's not, that's not what I'm complaining about. That's not it. It wasn't so much the class. It was more so just the amount of time it took to finish that. That was a huge undertaking to finish, and it just was so much work. I was very done when I finished it. I was very, very tired, especially. This was very quick and clean and painless by comparison. And that was a perfect example. Both of those shots on the cannibal, I talked about this, both of those shots hit armor, so neither of them actually did anything. You could actually even see the armor disintegrating. So if you didn't see and you're interested, you can just go back and kind of pause right around when that happens. All told, though, despite everything, I enjoy the Vanguard a lot more than the Sentinel. The Vanguard feels a lot more unique. It feels a lot, just so much different from my Engineer. The Sentinel doesn't really play that much differently from my Engineer. It actually kind of just feels like I am almost a neutered Engineer with a bit of a biotic punch as well. Lift grenades are really cool. I really like lift grenades. But my favorite ability that I have used on the Sentinel is by far just Slam. And anybody can use Slam. It's nothing in particular to the Sentinel. I suppose Slam kind of has a... It kind of fits the Sentinel. Miranda used Slam, and Miranda, I believe, was essentially a Sentinel. So it kind of goes with the class, but anybody can use it. It would work just as well, if not better, on an Adept. I just did not feel that the Sentinel was unique enough from the other classes in this game. And yeah, this is an example of apparently doesn't do anywhere near enough damage to out-damage his innate healing. Let's see how many it takes. And then finally I say to hell with it. You're done. Okay? I don't think the Sentinel evolved enough. I feel like the other classes gained more strategic options and more flavor and some improvements that I liked, whereas the Sentinel just hasn't really changed that much. I feel like the word I used when I talked about this last, which was a while ago, was just stagnation. I feel like the Sentinel has kind of stagnated a bit. He hasn't really evolved. He hasn't really kept up with the times. He has definitely been nerfed, and he hasn't been compensated to make up for that. All he's gotten is lift grenades, and while they are cool, as of right now, they're my favorite grenade. That might change, though, absolutely, when I see the other grenades in more action. But that's not enough. Tech armor has absolutely not kept up with how the game has changed. It doesn't feel unique. It doesn't feel interesting. It just feels like something you throw on and then never ever worry about again. And I understand that the reason that it stays on forever, it doesn't explode, you can manually detonate it opposed to the previous game, is just quality of life stuff. But I don't know if that's really necessary. It just, you never have to think about it ever. And I have found throughout the game that detonating tech armor, more often than not, just got me killed and was totally pointless. When I was close enough to detonate it, I should have been using Cryoblast or Throw or just anything. Whereas when I'm wasting my cooldown on a little bit of damage, it didn't help me at all. It just got me killed. That's why I haven't done it. I just never detonate the armor because it's pointless. It doesn't help me. And that's a real shame, because detonating the armor in the previous game, even though you didn't have control over it, and enemies, you know, would attack you and detonate it, you know, that it was really powerful. The damage it knocked down, it had a huge radius. Thing is, too, even though you didn't have direct control over detonating the armor in the previous game, you could be way back in cover and just purposely stick your head out long enough that they would take it down, and, you know, then it would detonate and it would affect them. I mean, you had control over it if you used it strategically. It also didn't have the huge-ass penalties to cooldowns that it does in this game, which I'm sure annoys a ton of players. It doesn't annoy me that terribly much. I imagine a lot of other players be really, really pissed about it. And I mean, it's not that powerful. I really don't feel like that was a necessary handicap by any means. It's not that big of a deal, at least on Insanity. Maybe these things manifest themselves and are far more necessary on lower difficulties, but on Insanity, I really do not notice a significant difference in survivability. It's not changing my playstyle because of it. Maybe it allows you to be a little more exposed than other classes, to have a larger margin of error. I don't know, I just don't really see it. I feel like the other armor powers are all better, personally. The fortification was not as good as I thought it would be. It seems to be dangerous to bother with. But maybe that'll be a bit better on my soldier when I try it. And barrier, I prefer the way tech armor worked in the previous game and knocked guys down. Barrier, sending them shooting off away from you, I don't like so much. Though on some areas it actually really shines, because it's really wide open and they can just fly off of edges and just die. More than likely, if you just want a good defensive tool, and that's the one armor I didn't bother with on this character, and that was Defense Matrix, and I didn't bother with it on purpose because I already have, you know, just the fire and forget nature of this and the extra survivability. I do not care about increasing my margin of error that much. I certainly do not, at least not, and I've talked about this before too, not in that way. I don't want a passive thing that just makes my life easier. I want something that makes my life easier but requires me to actually think about it, to use it strategically, and to use it intelligently, and therefore I can do things that I wasn't able to do otherwise. That's what I like. I like active defense, I guess is one way to put it, not passive defense. Defense Matrix is active defense in that it not only makes your shield stronger, but when you purge it, you get shields back. But I don't want to have to worry about that. I don't care. I have no trouble just waiting for my shields to recharge. I would much rather, if I wanted something to replenish shields, and I talked about this before too, use Energy Drain, and use Energy Drain on a synthetic or a shielded target, and replenish my shields that way. And in fact, that's what I did on my Engineer. That's, I think, the skill I settled on at the end of the game. I'd much rather use that. You know, armored skills in general just aren't really for me, to be honest, so maybe that affects my perspective. I'm sure it does. I mean, if tech armor and the armor skills are your favorite thing in the game, I mean, there's no trouble with that. I encourage you to use them then. Whenever you find fun, go for it. I feel like tech armor should have changed in some way significantly since the last game. And, you know, that's not the only skill I think should have changed more. I feel like the combat drone should have changed a bit more as well. I feel like the combat drone plays out too similarly to how it played in the previous game. It didn't really change enough to make me really interested in it. I would have loved Turret if it was just a bit bigger. The thing is so tiny and dinky. It was a little more masculine than, you know, I would have enjoyed using it more. I still wish I had tried out the flamethrower version a bit more as well. I did try that out, I think, when I was playing the demo, though I didn't record it. I wish the Engineer changed a bit as well. The Sentinel, I feel like the Soldier... I mean, the Soldier, if nothing else, cryo ammo has changed dramatically. And you can use a power when you have Adrenaline Rush up now, which is cool. And you have a ton of new weapon choices. And you have higher weight reduction, higher weight capacity, so you can actually make use of all those choices. And the Vanguard has absolutely changed a lot. You know, charge is a lot different than it used to be. Especially, I mean, just the way cooldowns work alone has changed things, and Nova is great. Singularity's changed a lot, too. It's actually pretty cool when you fully evolve it, I'd have to say. And even if you don't like Singularity, there are so many interesting new bonus skills that you can use to just replace Singularity, and just the way that warp bombs work and everything. You know, that's a lot different. Yeah, that's another thing. I suppose I should take in consideration tech detonations for the Engineer. And I wish that Combat Drone had changed a bit more and was just And part of that is, as well, is it feels like it was nerfed quite a bit since the previous game, so that's probably also affecting my opinion, but tech detonations are cool, if not a bit much. You know, they're really, really powerful. The Infiltrator's changed a ton. I mean, the Infiltrator, the Adept, the Vanguard. Not totally sure on the Soldier, but I feel like they still are interesting enough to play. Have transitioned to an extent, like amplification for concussive shot and stuff. And even the engineer, you know, with tech detonations and the turret at least. But the Sentinel, when I think of the Sentinel, I just don't see a lot that's changed. He can at least make use of Cryoblast more, which is nice, you know, because it was fairly useless in the previous game on Insanity. And he has Lift Grenade. But beyond that, I mean, what has really changed? Tech armor is much the same. It has gained new effects because you have 7, you know, or whatever it is, effects now, and choices. Well, technically, I guess it would be, what, 8 choices? Because it's 3, and then you have 4 choices. So 8 actual choices, and then 3 mandatory things. But none of those choices really fundamentally change the way that the class plays. They don't dramatically change tech armor. They're all basically just passive bonuses. I mean, one of its evolutions is just, it doesn't affect your cooldowns as much. It's an entirely passive thing. I don't know. What do you guys think about it all? You know, what do you Sentinel players think? Am I speaking blasphemy? Do you entirely disagree with me? If you do, why? I mean, I'm interested. I'm truly interested. How do you feel about the class and how he has evolved and changed? Just of all the classes, I feel like the Sentinel is far too similar. You know what I would have really liked and really wished was in the previous game? I wish they allowed you to customize the color of your tech armor. Even that would have been a really nice touch. Let me, just like I can change the color of my armor, let me change the color of my tech armor. The Eclipse Troopers or whoever, I don't remember. Maybe it was Blue Suns. Maybe I'm thinking of Blue Suns. The Blue Suns in the previous game, they had tech armor. All of their lieutenants had tech armor on them, at least the graphic for it, and theirs was blue. Why can't I make my tech armor blue? Why can't I make it green, or yellow, or red, or whatever I want? That would have been neat. Now what I basically did to kind of keep things consistent was I made the glowies on my armor. I made them orange, which is cool. I like that you can change the glowies on your armor now. Definitely a very nice touch, so at least there's that. I also used the Archon visor for a good amount of time, which is orange and matches it. I actually did the same thing in Mass Effect 2 when the Archon visor was released. I think it was DLC. And this area was a lot easier. Not the area I'm in now, but the previous area with the Ravager and the Marauders. That took me forever on my Vanguard. Much simpler. I was way better equipped. I had a Saber, take out the Ravager, and you know, I'd slam and I'd overload and everything. This was actually maybe a little bit more difficult on the Sentinel than on my Vanguard. This area, the shelves, the little grocery store, whatever it is, was really easy on my Vanguard because I had tons of cover to duck around and... Not that it was difficult on my Sentinel, by any means. It was not challenging. You know, one thing, that was another thing that kind of irritated me. With the Resurgence pack, again, going to ramble about the Resurgence pack, Blade armor was implemented. And when I first saw it, I was thinking, that might be interesting, that might be a cool alternative to tech armor. But upon actually seeing the ability, I'm thinking no. And maybe I'm totally wrong, but it seems like the main thing for Blade armor is just you do reciprocal damage when enemies hit you in melee. And that sounds like a very, very bad idea in the single player. That sounds like a really good way to die instantly in the single player. I mean, you really can't take hits in the single player in melee. And you'd be far better off just killing them. I mean, why wait for them to hit you? Just kill them in melee. Just run up and smack them. I have a feeling that maybe it works differently in the multiplayer. Like maybe the damage reduction makes a much larger difference that it gives you, and you can take more hits or something. I don't know, maybe you guys could also explain that to me, but it seems just like a really suicidal thing to do. Just let enemies smack you in the face repeatedly. Unless it just will instantly kill them, I suppose. I mean, if it does that much damage, that just one hit will kill them, then I guess that's fine. So we are moving through this. My Sentinel rant actually took up a very large portion of this video. This is another long one, so is the next one. These 20-minute videos are just killing me. Another time that I hit armor. That red thing, that was armor. I hit it, didn't do any damage. It actually also makes a distinctive sound when you hit armor rather than actually hitting the enemy. You know, one thing I'm looking forward to is actual single-player DLC for this game. They haven't really announced any beyond the extended cut. Really would like, you know, another party member, because that, if nothing else, equals more bonus skills. New weapons would be great. New armor. That was one of my biggest grievances as well. There was not... I mean, there were new armor pieces added to the game, you know, Mass Effect 3, but especially helmets. The vast majority of the helmets were from the previous game. I really would have liked to have seen more helmets, especially more helmets that give you the voice thing. What's it called? Just voice modulation. Like the N7 helmet that I'm wearing now, or the Death Mask. I would have loved to have seen more helmets like that. Just full face helmets that just cover your whole face. The vast majority of helmets in the game are just headsets and visors and whatever. And I understand why that is, because if you spend time on actually customizing your character's face, you probably want to actually see your character's face. But I feel like they wouldn't, you know, do any harm adding some more actual face helmets. You know, that also look good. Preferably that actually look good. Like the capacitor helmet and the Kestrel helmet. The Kestrel helmet's okay, I suppose. But the capacitor helmet, I think, looks ridiculous. Why can I not smack you in the face? How dare you stand up on the ledge somehow? Here we go. And then he does it again. How dare you? Sir. Now you're goo. That's what you get. You get gooified. The problem with the capacitor helmet and the Kestrel helmet as well is they go through all the trouble of covering your whole face, but they don't cover your freaking mouth, so you don't get the cool voice modulation. I want freaking voice modulation.
We're at the rendezvous. Hammer companies reporting.
Well, this is winding down. I think this is our last room before we go into the big survival sequence. This, and then there's just like a hallway. But all told, I did enjoy this playthrough. It was really fun experimenting with all the bonus skills. And I think will save me time in my next playthroughs, because I don't think I'll have to do quite as much experimentation. You know, I unlocked a lot of bonus skills in my Vanguard playthrough. But most of them don't really work well with the Vanguard, so I didn't really experiment too much with them. At least not with how I played my Vanguard, just focusing on just pretty typical stuff, just charging and being close, and a lot of the bonus skills are better to use at greater ranges as part of just like a powers or artillery build or just a shooty build, more so than how I played the Vanguard. I was hoping that this little area I'm in now would have been better for flanking, but it doesn't really have good line of sight. So things in my Infiltrator playthrough probably won't be quite as volatile, insofar as I won't be changing my build quite as frequently. I used Reeve for a good portion of my Sentinel playthrough for the beginning, but then I kind of just wound up changing my build like every episode even, just all the time. Trying out different things. It's very helpful to just lure the brute into this room, especially if you're good at just dodging out of the way and avoiding his attacks, because you can actually take out a brute in very close quarters if you're good at rolling and dodging. Because that way, when you bring him back here, you don't have to worry about the Marauders shooting you, because you just completely break their line of sight. We have one more episode, I think. Just the Survive episode, the finale. Then we'll be done. Hopefully I can quickly do it before I have to go to work. I yet again have to go to work. This is another many commentaries today. So I hope you guys enjoy them. And have enjoyed this playthrough. Don't run, come back. There you go. Is it just me, or are those melee sync kills amazing? I mean, I don't know. I think those are so fun to do. What do you guys think about that? Maybe I just get, like, perverse joy out of it. I don't know. It is a good idea to just get the hell out of there, though. Because there's 2 of them. 2 brutes. I'm curious if headshots on brutes actually make a significant difference, because they have incredibly difficult heads to hit. They're really, really small, and they're hard to even just see. They blend into their bodies. And there he goes. Alright, guys. Well, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more. If you liked the video, please give it a like. Helps people find my stuff, makes it more visible on YouTube. And sub if you'd like to see more Mass Effect 3 stuff. Please leave feedback and comments, and I will be sure to get back to you. Have a good one, guys.